Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So I researched the country of Rwanda, and today I'm discussing what led to the Hutu-Tutsi Civil War and the 1994 Rwandan genocide, or the 100 Days Genocide. So some brief demographics for Rwanda are that the government is a republic with a presidential and multi-party system. Their economy is widely dependent on commodities such as bananas, coffee, tea, cement, and plastic goods. And the country itself is slightly smaller than the size of Maryland, yet has a population of about 12 million people. So this has resulted in Rwanda being one of the most dense populated countries in Africa. So the capital of Rwanda is Kigali, and as of 2003, Rwanda has signed their own constitution. In recent years, Rwanda has made a remarkable recovery to the 1994 genocide that shattered their small rural economy. However, ethnic tension still remains today between the Hutu and the Tutsi people. Ever since Rwanda was founded in the 15th century, the Hutu and the Tutsi have remained enemies. Though they have had a checkered past, what caused them to have a full-out war, causing one of the most horrific genocides in history. So the Tutsis were considered the high-class educators, the political figures, etc. And the Hutu were considered the lower-class farmers, peasants, and laborers. Ever since the Tutsi established control during the 15th century, Rwanda remained under their control until the arrival of the Europeans just before World War I. After the arrival of the Europeans, the Tutsi were no longer in political control. During the colonization of Africa, they first began under German control, then later under Belgium. After the decolonization of Africa, the Hutu Revolution began in the late 1950s as a political movement to gain control over Rwanda. During this political revolution, the Hutu had portrayed the Tutsis as enemies. Hutu politicians gained momentum by slandering the Tutsi, justifying their persecution because they were the minority. In 1962, when Rwanda had officially gained independence, the Hutu Revolution caused over 100,000 Tutsis to flee into neighboring countries. Some 200 Tutsis attempted to take over Kigali in 1963, only to be immediately stopped by the military. New Hutu President Kayibanda took this as an opportunity to stop any further Tutsi terrorist operations and publicly executed 20 Tutsi politicians to prove a point that the Tutsis were out to destroy the people of Rwanda. As a result of President Kayibanda's action, the Hutus of Rwanda sought out to kill every Tutsi. During this time, some 10,000 Tutsis were killed while many fled out of Rwanda. In the neighboring country of Burundi had recently been brought to power by Tutsis. They killed off many Hutus as possible. In 1966, Hutu politicians were executed in Burundi, and later in 1972, the Tutsis rounded up all Hutus with education and were killed off by the army. Some 200,000 were killed, and another 2,000 Hutu fled into Rwanda. In 1972, Hutu General Juvenal Habyarimana overthrew President Kayibanda. Tutsis suffered the same fate and hatred as before, but not any additional harassment. Similar to South Africa, they were required to carry around little booklets designating their race. However, Habyarimana instead ruled Rwanda through a one-party dictatorship. For the most part of his regime, Rwanda was an ever-growing, prosperous country. However, prosperity stopped after coffee prices dropped by 0.5%. This resulted in the Niger's budget to be cut by 44%. Habyarimana's failure as president resulted in Tutsis to complain even more about their restrictions. Eventually, Habyarimana sought foreign help from the to stop the Rwandan Patriotic Front, which was a group of Tutsis attempting to take over Rwanda once again. On October 1st, in 1990, the Rwandan Patriotic Front crossed into Rwanda with the help of the Ugandan army. With help from France, Habyarimana more than tripled Rwanda's army from 19,000 soldiers to 28,000 to help fight the invasion of the RPF. So Habyarimana struggled to maintain control of Rwanda, and eventually he was forced to sign a peace treaty with the RPF 3 years later. During this time, Habyarimana set up a propaganda campaign targeting the Tutsis, similar to the 1962 campaign by President Kayibanda. As a result, many Tutsis were killed. After Habyarimana reached a peaceful conclusion with the RPF, 2 months later, the first Hutu president of Burundi was kidnapped and killed. This resulted in a Hutu-Tutsi massacre between 150,000 and 300,000 were killed. Hutu propaganda again increased against Tutsi, and spearheaded by Hutu Colonel Bagarosa in 1994, over 500,000 machetes and firearms were distributed among the Hutu people. Colonel Bagarosa stockpiled firearms for the Hutu militia in preparation for the 1994 Tutsi genocide. In 1994, President Habyarimana was assassinated by unknown assailants. This resulted in the immediate trigger of the Tutsi genocide that killed over 500,000 Tutsi. In a matter of 100 days, due to the lack of political stability in Rwanda, the RPF eventually took control over the Hutu by taking control of key points like the capital of Kigali. The Hutu sought help from France, but when they arrived, they saw what had really happened, that the Tutsis had been massacred instead of the Hutus. Eventually, the RPF pushed forward to drive the Hutu genocide out. However, many of the officials responsible for the Tutsi genocide vowed for revenge and swore that the battle isn't over. As a result of the 4-year-long war on a 100-day genocide, the Rwandan government was shattered, the economy was demolished, and the entire country was destroyed. An immediate result of it was that Rwanda was officially the poorest country in the world. Ultimately, the Rwandan genocide and civil wars were a result of many years of Hutu oppression and the thirst for revenge.